In this video, we are going to go over how to solve systems of linear inequalities. We have 3 steps that we are going to follow. We are going to, step 1, graph the first inequality. Step 2, graph the second one. Step 3, identify the final solution, or the area of the graph that is going to be double shaded. Let's look at an example. Here we have 2 linear inequalities that we are asked to graph on the same graph. So let's look at the first one. The first one, we have a y is greater than 1/2 x plus 1. So my y-intercept comes from this value here. So my y-intercept is 0, 1. My slope comes from the number attached to that x. So my slope is 1/2. Or a -1 over a -2. So I can go ahead and draw that linear inequality. We're going to put 0, 1 on the graph. That's right here. There's my y-intercept. We're going to go up 1 and over in the positive direction 2. Up 1 and over in the positive direction 2. We run out of graph. We can't go up and over 2 anymore. So now we're going to go back to the y-intercept, go down 1, and go in the negative direction 2. Down 1 in the negative direction 2. Now we want to take a look at the inequality. It does not have the or equals to, so this is going to be a dashed line. So again, since I'm working on an iPad, I'm going to draw it solid and then come back with an eraser, because that's the easiest way to do it for me on this iPad. For you doing this on paper, it's going to be easier for you to just go ahead and dash it from the beginning. So now we have our first one drawn. We have to figure out what side are we going to shade. To figure out what side we're going to shade, we're going to look at that part of our inequality right there. Y is greater than. So if I'm standing at my spot on the y-intercept, I want to look what side of that line are my y values going to be greater than, and that is going to be everything above. And once again, you're going to have a much neater shading with a pencil and paper than I can get here with this iPad and stylus. So now that we've got the first one taken care of, we're going to look at the second one. My y-intercept comes from the b value, so 0, -3. My slope comes from the number attached to the x, so we have a 5/2, or a -5 over a -2. So we can plot our y-intercept, 0, -3. Use our slope, go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 2, 1, 2, puts us right here. I don't have enough space to go up 5 again, and I don't have enough space for my y-intercept to go down 5, so I only have these 2 points to draw my line from. Now I look at, this says the inequality is greater than, so again it's going to be a dashed line. And again, since I'm on an iPad, can't use a ruler because it'll touch the screen and mess everything up. Yours is going to be more accurate than mine here on the screen. So we have this line that needs to be dashed, so I'm going to go back with the eraser and make it dashed. Again, yours would be easier on paper to just dash from the beginning. And now we need to determine what side we want to shade. So looking at our y-intercept, our inequality was y is greater than, so where is the y values greater than? That would be up here. So the double shaded part is going to be that part that's got the yellow and the blue. Again, yours is going to be more accurate than mine, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of highlight here. This part right here is your double shaded area. When you're doing this on paper, it's going to be easier to tell where the double shaded area is, so you won't need to put a box around it, but to help emphasize it here in this video, that's what I did, was put the box around it, so that you can see where the double shaded area is. So we've completed our first example. Let's look at another example. Here we have y is greater than 5/3 x plus 2, and a y is less than 1/3 x minus 2. So in the first one, my y-intercept would be 0, 2, and my slope would be 5/3, or negative 5 over negative 3. And we can go ahead and draw this line. So plot 0, 2. Go up 5, 1, 2, 3. Oh, I ran out of room to go up, so I'm going to have to go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over in the negative direction, 3 is going to put us right here. There's no or equals to, so this is going to be a dashed line. And one more time again, it's easier for me on this iPad to make it solid and then go back and dash it with the eraser. If you're doing this with paper and pencil, going to be easier to just dash from the beginning. So we have our line. Now we need to figure out what part do we need to shade. This says y is greater, so stand at your y-intercept, and what part or what side of that line are the y values greater than your y-intercept? That would be all of these up here. So this is the side that would be shaded. Notice how I'm leaving enough space between the line and the shading so that I can tell whether it's a solid or a dashed line. Now we need to go ahead and graph the second one. So my y-intercept comes from the b value, so 0, negative 2 on this one, and my slope comes from the number attached to the x, so 1/3, or negative 1 over negative 3. So go ahead and plot my y-intercept. 0, negative 2 is right here. Up 1 over 3. I don't have enough space to do that again, so I'm going to go back to the y-intercept, go down 1, and in the negative direction 3, which puts us right here. It is going to be a dashed line because we do not have the or equals to, so I'm going to go ahead and draw my line. And again, I'm drawing it solid and going back and erasing to make it dashed because that is what works on this iPad with the stylus. So once you've made it your dashed line, now we need to determine what part we want to shade. So we want the part that is y is less than. So less than is going to be everything down here. I did not do the best job with my shading, but if you notice, the part that's double shaded is this tiny little part right here, because that was above the first line and below the second line. So we just have that tiny little corner that is part of the double shaded area. So let's look at another example. So same steps. Here's my y-intercept, so 0, negative 3. My slope is negative 2 over 1, or 2 over negative 1. And I can go ahead and draw my line. So 0, negative 3. Go down 2 and over 1. Go back to my y-intercept, go up 2 and in the negative direction 1. And continue to do that until I run out of graph. This guy has a or equals to, so it's going to be a solid line. We're going to draw it right through here. We're just going to pretend that I drew a straight line. It's a lot easier when you can use a straight edge. So we have our line. Now we need to determine what part to shade. Our inequality says y is less than. So if I'm standing at my y-intercept, looking at the x-axis, where are my y values less than? That would be down here. So everything below this line is the part that we're wanting to be shaded. So now we have to do the same thing with the second line, or second inequality. So we have the y-intercept of 0, positive 3 this time, and the slope of 1 over 1, or negative 1 over negative 1. We can go ahead and plot 0, 3, and up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, down 1, negative 1, down 1, negative 1, and we continue to do so until we fill in all of our graph. This guy is going to be a dashed line because our inequality does not have the or equals to. So I can go ahead and draw my line and go back and give it the dashes. So there's my dashed line, and we need to determine what side we need to shade. So looking at our inequality for that line, it says y is less than. So if I'm standing at my y-intercept of 0, 3, where are my y values less than? That would be all of this down here. Again, your shading's going to be able to look a lot nicer than I can get it on this iPad screen. So my double shaded area is this guy right here. So we've solved yet another example. Let's look at a fourth example. Same process. Identify your y-intercept, so 0, 3. Identify your slope, 1/2 or -1 over -2. We can go ahead and draw our line. So 0, 3 we can plot. Go up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, go back to your y-intercept, down 1 and in the negative direction 2, down 1 in the negative direction 2. Oop, what happened? Hit the wrong button. Down 1 in the negative direction 2 would put us right there. Our inequality is or equals to, so we're going to have a solid line through here. Now we need to look to see what part we need to shade. Well, it says y is greater than, so if I'm standing at the y-intercept, where are my y values greater? That would be all of this up here. So we have our hopefully neatly drawn and shaded graph. Now we move on to the second one. My y-intercept would be 0, -1. My slope is a 1/2 or a -1 over -2. So we can go ahead and draw our line. So 0, -1 is right here. Up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, down 1 and in the negative direction 2. And our inequality is going to have the or equals to, so again we're going to be drawing a solid line. So we have parallel lines here, and we have a y is less than. So when we go to shade, we're looking for the y values less than this line, so that would be these guys down here. And now when we look to identify, are there any double shaded areas? No, they're not, so this graph is our solution here. Let's look at another example. So here we have y is greater than or equal to x minus 2. So my y-intercept would be -2, or sorry, 0, -2. And my slope is that number attached to the x, so a 1 over 1 or a -1 over -1. Go ahead and plot 0, -2. Go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, and continue to do so until we fill in our graph. Then go down 1 and in the negative direction 1. Our inequality has the or equals to, so we're looking at a solid line. Now we need to determine what part to shade. We want y is greater than, so my y values are greater than up here than where I am on my y-intercept. So this is the part of the graph shaded for this one. Now we identify the y-intercept on the other one, 0, -1. And our slope is 1 over 1 again, or -1 over -1. We can go ahead and draw this line. 0, -1 is right here. Up 1 over 1, continue to do so till we run out of graph. Then go down 1 and in the negative direction 1. This time we're going to need a dashed line because we do not have the or equals to part. So I'm going to go back and put our dashes on here. And the part we shade is the part that's greater than, so that's everything up here. So we have a rather large area of double shading here, all of this. Let's look at one last example. Identify your y-intercept, so 0, -1. And your slope is -4/3. Or 4/-3. So we can go ahead and draw this line. So we have a 0, -1 right here. Go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and over in the positive direction 3. Or up 4, and in the negative direction 3. We want a dashed line. So I can go back and put my dashes. Now we need to determine what part to shade. This is y is less than, so the y values are less than down here. So all of this is what's going to be shaded. And then we do the same thing for the next one. My y-intercept is 0, -2. My slope is, again, -4/3, or 4/-3. And I can go ahead and make my line. So 0, -2 is right here. Down 4, I don't have enough. Up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4/3. It's going to be right there. We're again going to have a dashed line. So I'm going to go back and make my little dashes. And we want the part that is greater than. So that's actually going to be all of this up here. And that double shaded area is that little itty bitty strip right between those two lines. That guy right in here, which I messed up showing solid or dashed, but that little section in between those two lines is where it is double shaded. So hopefully this video has helped you figure out how to solve systems of linear inequalities by graphing. As always, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask me in class.